first panel discussion of the day. Still on the topic, the future of work. Our panelists for this discussion are Habibah Haji Harry, Chief Human Resource Officer for Bank Islam Brunei Darussalam, BIBD. She currently oversees all aspects of human resource management of about 1,000 BIBD employees. She's instrumental in reinforming strong work culture, driving and leading large-scale employee engagement and developing programs and implementing talent. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Habibah Haji Hari. We also have Junaidi Bahrum, Director of Sales at Progresif. Now, Junaidi has been in sales for over 15 years in the service industry, ranging from banking to telecommunications in different countries. He has built himself from the bottom as a telesales agent, and now he holds a top position as a Director of Sales. He is the definition of starting from the bottom, now we're here. Hey! And of course, our final panelist is Daniel Kumar. He's the Senior Director of Cosmopolitan College with a plethora of experience across industries in the area of strategic marketing, brand building, and organizational development. Daniel has been an integral part of the multinational entity managing world-renowned clothing brands like Marks & Spencer, Tommy Hilfiger, and Victoria's Secret. Hopefully someone will ask a question about that one later. Now, the session will be moderated by Reuben Chin. And here is a little bit more about Reuben. Earlier on, I shared a bit about him as well. He's had his work as part of a public exhibition by the National Geographic Channel as a photographer. That I did not know that you are a photographer as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our panelists and our moderator.
Thank you, Aimi. Morning again. Are you guys more impressed with me now? So I'm impressed with you now. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, panelists.
Good
morning. Morning.
Morning.
So, wow, somebody's excited. Now, first question. It's going to be an easy one. If 2020 were a person, who would this person be? Real or fictional? Doesn't matter.
I thought this was an easy one.
Daniel, this is the easiest one. While you guys think of this, let me speak with the audience for a little bit. I'll come back to you. You know, the other day I saw on Facebook, and if it's on Facebook, it must be real. It's a meme that says, we predicted for flying cars in 2020. But even planes aren't flying. It's been a weird year, right? So let's come back to our panelists. If 2020 was a person, who would it be? Daniel.
I think my mom.
Is your mom watching? And why?
So many restrictions. So much of advice. So yeah, the easiest person I would call it is, my mom.
Daniel, I hope your mom is not watching.
Yeah, I hope so.
Habibah, if 2020 was a person, who would it be?
Okay. 2020 was difficult for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
At the same time, I remember during the global lockdown, the earth becomes better.
Mm.
So it actually reminds me of kind of like a necessary evil. And that reminds me of the movie, Nanny McPhee, who had the responsibility to take care of very naughty children. And with magic and discipline, she was able to transform them, and the family became closer together. So it felt like that, necessary evil. But you know, in the end, the hideous Nanny McPhee, that time, in turn, ultimately became like this really pretty lady, and everyone's happy, happy family in the end. So that was me, Nanny McPhee.
Thank you. Daniel's mom, Nanny McPhee. Okay.
It's all female.
Yeah.
Not great.
Junaidi.
Hello. I haven't given this much thought. So, initially wanted to answer the same thing as Daniel's mom, right? Then again, at the last minute, I have to change,
Uh-huh.
right? So, I would say it's a comedy show,
Okay.
right? A reality show, sitcom. It just gets funnier day by day.
Okay.
But at the same time, it just won't stop. It just won't end. Things keeps on coming. So I was watching an advert a couple of days ago about how 2020 is the devil falling in love with a woman called Chaos. Right? And they're just walking around, enjoying things being hit, being burned and everything, but that they found love between the both of them. Right? So to me, it's a comedy show. Accept it for what it is. Right? It's funny, but at the same time, it's sad.
Okay.
So-
Junaidi, why are you the one sitting closest to me?
Yeah. But that's my answer. It's a comedy show.
Okay, cool. Now let's move over to Aimi.
Okay, I saw this meme and I thought it was really funny, made me laugh for a while. And it was a picture of Rudy Giuliani with his hair dye melting onto his face. And that's 2020. Because it feels like when you think it's over, something worse comes along. And it's like a combination of bad luck, bad preparation for some, and ineptitude, but real just denial. And you're still standing and smiling, even if you have hair dye dripping across your face.
It ends, but it never ends. Now, I was also thinking, if somebody would ask me this question, what would I say? Thanks for asking, guys.
And what about you, Reuben?
Oh, if 2020 was a person, it would be either my mother or my girlfriend. For the same reasons as you gentlemen. So we're all in trouble together anyway, okay? Let's get there. For young gentlemen in the audience, if you're still single, don't do that. Life advice. So let's talk about change for a while. We can't talk about the future of work unless we talk about change, right? And I took the liberty of downloading this off YouTube, and I don't know how many of you guys will actually know what this sound is. If you do, raise your hands. And now maybe you're connected to the internet.
And unless someone picks up the phone,
Yeah, and now maybe you're connected to the internet until your sister picks up the phone. Then you do it all over again. So how many of you actually know what this sound was? This is the 56K modem. Cool. So how many of you still have one at home? No? So I'm guessing the people who had a factory that made modems like this, they've just run out of a job, right? So a lot of times when we think about things, we feel that it's permanent, it'll stay forever. But most of the times things aren't. Things move on, and so does work. So I want to ask from my panels here, how has COVID actually really affected your business? So Aimi asked this question earlier on, but we didn't really get an answer. So let's go around the table now, find out what exactly happened during COVID. Where were you on that day when the Brunei government locked us in? In a good way.
So, do I have to go first?
I would prefer for you to go first.
Okay. On the first day of COVID, it's a vivid memory. So basically, I was supposed to go out to the borders. Just bought a motorcycle, and that day itself, it's like luck, right? Just wanting to cross over, just go around, disappear, and the news came out that the borders were locked down. So being in the telecommunication industry, and previously before that, before I was in Progresif, I was with the wholesale provider in Brunei. I'm not going to say the name here, otherwise, things will be flying to my path, right? So we went to the office because there was an urgent request. Well, I would say there was 86, I still remember that number, urgent requests for isolation centers in terms of connectivity on that evening itself. Because we've got a fair bit of students coming back, emergency flights, anything, and these areas had absolutely zero internet.
Zero internet.
Zero internet, right? So on that day itself, what happened was they demanded that these places to have internet immediately, in a snap, right? So that was a tough time because some of the areas, especially like say it's in Tumburong, where you don't have infrastructure, so we physically had to go there at 1 in the morning. The bridge, by the way, was just completed. Rushed through. Even myself, I had to help pull the fiber together, put up what you call an AP or access points and everything, so everybody can get connected at 6 a.m. the next day. So this 86 requests were fulfilled within 5 hours with only 30 odd people. Right? So just imagine, because the next day, nobody showed up to work. Zero. Everybody was fearful. Our installers, the people who goes home to home, fixing up your modem, the ones with coveralls and everything, were not allowed to come in because, hey, you look sweaty. Right? Nobody knew what COVID was. Nobody knew how to respond to COVID. Right? So, yeah. But then again, I also discovered on that day, everybody is a content creator. Right? On that day itself, like, someone called me and said, hey, what's wrong with the internet? I'm trying to upload my coffee to YouTube. Yeah. So that impacted us quite a fair bit. And I have to say, but the telecommunication industry was one of the few handful of industries that actually saw a surge in terms of usage.
So when COVID happened, everyone stayed at home, everyone worked from home, you got busier in the office.
Yes, I had 0 days off for 3 months straight because it kept on coming. The requests kept on coming.
So when people were complaining about being stuck at home, isolation, depression, you wanted to slap them or what?
Reserve that comment to myself. No, actually, I felt quite proud. I was referred to, as one individual put it, a frontliner. And I was contributing back to the country, right? And all I did was sat behind the screen.
Not much of a frontliner.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, thanks for that, Junaidi. Let's move over to Habibah. Where were you on that day?
At the office, actually. So basically, we actually had we had one of our staff tested positive.
Oh.
Yeah. So for our organization, we already have our business continuity plan already in place, but having a plan and actually having to activate
Execute
that
the plan,
are two different things.
Yep.
So when we had that, everything was put in gear, and we had to evacuate one whole floor in the head office. But the management team got together, etc., and everything actually went okay, etc. Like Junaidi said, BIBD, our main challenge then was two things. Yeah, one is to ensure that we are able to continue the business because this is money, this is the bank, everyone needs it. But at the same time, also ensuring the safety and the welfare of our own staff, our own frontliners. So that was a big challenge. Unlike Progresif, at the same time, even though everyone else was working from home, that didn't apply to us. We go and go to work every day like normal. And in fact, we actually had to work harder. And I'm actually very, very proud to see how committed everyone was. One of the surprises I see also, and we are very fortunate, our government actually took action really quickly.
Yes.
And despite us being quite jealous of people working from home, we are also very, very happy that they did, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have been able to combat this and getting, things under control.
Yep.
So the organization's behavior and the employees' behavior definitely have changed since COVID.
Yep. I think it applies for a lot of organizations, but I'm trying to set a context so that we go through everyone, and then we find out what exactly did we learn from COVID. This whole period, right? Daniel.
Yes, our feeling was a bit different. Actually, when the restriction was announced, we were terrified. Because the previous day we were at a futsal match, shaking hands all over the place, right? Having a nice time and doing whatever they said not to do, right? So the guys were like, next day at work, our guys were like going crazy, like doing the breathing exercise and checking if they were having COVID for themselves. Right, like inhaling, holding the breath for, I say 30 seconds or 10 seconds and checking by themselves if they had it. And so 2-3 days ran away like this with this excitement. But to be on the serious part of the story, actually when Education 4.0, the concept came in, as an organization, we started digitizing most of our processes before this happened. So our goal was to complete our digitization by 2020 April. So it so happened that these restrictions were imposed and we were online, or we were in the same thinking pattern what the world demanded at that time. So in fact, our digitization happened faster than we wanted it to be, because there was an urgent need for it. So yes, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Don't give too much away for now, okay? Keep them excited. You guys excited? You haven't given it away yet. Let's move over to Aimi. Where were you on that day?
At home in my office, because that's where I work. No, it was, we were at home working. I have a son who's all over me when I'm working. But what definitely changed, so I used to travel a lot. I used to be like out of the country twice a month. A lot of our clients are outside of Brunei. We do a lot of trips abroad just to deal with our clients, but also with other work that we were doing as part of other organizations. And so the big change was I had 5 trips lined up from February to April. Thankfully, a lot of them were canceled ahead of time because they're like, you know what, this COVID thing might be serious, but just to be safe. So, so that was where we were. We were at home. But what's really interesting is I'm so happy to hear that you already had digitalization plans, because trust me, the calls that we got since, a lot of people didn't have the plans. And then they call us, and everyone wants it now. And so what's amazing is that despite all that's happened, businesses and economy in Brunei, we're one of the few countries in the world that's going to see positive growth, despite all this. And so it's a really, really big thing that not only have we heard from everybody that, you know what, not only was business, going, it was going faster. There's more. For some, yeah, we were prepared, and things kept on going the way we were. This is not a common story. So please understand that what you're hearing here is really something that I wouldn't say is unique, but very close to being unique to Brunei.
You guys not going to ask me what I do?
What did you do?
Well, I was in the office, and when they said lockdown, I was so happy because I thought that I didn't have to go back to work. But my boss said, it's okay, we're in Brunei, it's safe. So I never worked from home, I never wore a mask. And I was on the front line too. But what I want to ask is, before COVID, when we were talking about digitization, we're talking about Internet of Things, Wi-Fi 6, whatever it is, right? All these buzzwords, 5G. It all sounded like something for other countries to do. And then maybe if they're successful, maybe we'll follow. But somehow, since March to December 2020, that's not been the case, has it? Suddenly we realized that there is an urgency to get our entire ecosystem into place so that we're ready for the future of work. So what exactly is the future of work? Let's go with Habibah first this time.
Okay, future of work. If you think about the future, I think right now, with all the rapid changes, it's going to be uncertain. Yeah, it is still uncertain. I don't think I can predict what type of future jobs that will exist. I mean, even currently, we have so many different job titles. Yeah, Aimi's slide pack just now showed things around data analytics, working with artificial intelligence
Yep.
and big data, blockchain, all that. That's going to happen, definitely. But I think rather than talking about the future of jobs, rather than looking at what type of jobs will be available, I think what's more important is to look at laying the foundation for the younger generation so that they have the life skills that can enable them to be flexible,
Yep.
that can enable them to be agile and adaptable. So these life skills that are currently not necessarily, I hope they are starting to teach those at school. They never were taught during our time,
Yep.
or even maybe, I don't know, a few years back. Things like communication skills, things like project-based type education, where they learn to understand the culture, the social culture around them. The culture of Brunei, what is it like? What do people want? How do people react and stuff like that? I think they also need to understand not only just looking at new projects, new ideas, but learning to understand what does this mean? What problems do we need to look at and identify and solve? So that kind of mindset. So those kinds of life skills, communication definitely, project management type of thing, and also cultural awareness and your social awareness about what's going on around.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is that the future of work, while we cannot specifically say what it is, because we don't know, right? It's a mystery. But we can say it involves a lot more knowledge and involves a lot more technology.
Yes.
Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So Daniel, as Habibah was speaking earlier on, I noticed that you were going, yes. And I know that you are putting on your Senior Director of Cosmopolitan College hat on. Because we were talking about teaching life skills and social skills. What do you make out of that? And what are we doing at Cosmopolitan for things like
Yes,
this?
actually I agree with Habibah, and the previous speaker, she actually hit it on the head, right? Being dynamic is the secret of handling the future. Because one of the toughest jobs that anyone can do is to predict things, right? So that's going to be a very tough thing. Yes, we can say, yeah, we have data, we can analyze it, and we can predict the future. Yes, fine, we can do it, but up to what extent is the question. So yes, it's going to be a very dynamic environment. It's going to be a dynamic industry. And yes, more than hard skills like what she mentioned, soft skills. Like I picked it from you actually, Reuben, sense of urgency, right? When, we are comfortable saying we can do it tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes, right? There's a song as well, if tomorrow never comes. But we need that sense of urgency to get things done. So this kind of events, this kind of environment requires skills like sense of urgency, adaptability, agility. I am sure Junaidi might agree with me. So these kind of skills are in high demand, and these are the kind of skills that will be required for future jobs for youngsters. That's my take on it. And yes, as educational institutions, as vocational institutions, we need to inculcate these things into our curriculum. And we need to give these things to our students so that they tend to find the workplace more interesting and they can survive in the workplace in future.
Yeah, totally. By the way, you mentioned earlier on, If Tomorrow Never Comes is a song.
Yes.
Just hang on to that thought.
Okay.
How many of you know that song? Let me see.
my
How many of you know this song?
I don't.
If Tomorrow Never Comes.
It's like I'm so old.
Tomorrow never comes.
Somebody's got to sing it. Daniel, sing it.
I think if you want to chase away all these lovely people, I can sing for you.
So If Tomorrow Never Comes is a song by a very popular boy band called Boyzone. No?
I think we're thinking of different songs. I sing Tina Turner,
No.
right?
Okay, let's not go Tina Turner, because if they don't know Ronan Keating, they don't know Tina Turner. Okay, let's come back. This is why this is important, because whatever we think is common knowledge, they actually don't know, because the times have changed. And there will come a time when we think that this is what they need to do, but actually it's not. Actually it's not. Now, Aimi, you seem to have a lot of ideas on stage early on about what exactly we should be doing to help the people younger than us and guide them in the right direction, even when we don't know where exactly it is.
We have a good indication of where. We just don't know what exactly. So, like what I was saying earlier, it's not rocket science. You can read this up. You can find out that, okay, well, if a robot can do that faster, cheaper, better than I can, that job's not going to be around. If it requires a little bit more creative thinking that AI can't really master yet, then I've got a bit of a chance. But I think that it's so important that education providers and industry leaders communicate. Because so we've been trying to hire software engineers for ages. And what we've really found is that this whole discussion about job mismatch, right? Or education mismatch, the degrees and diplomas that you're holding or you're going to be holding in your hands, by the time you hold it, I'm sorry to say, is not going to be as relevant to the work that you're going to be doing as you think it will be. I've interviewed enough recent graduates in the most specific degrees that should have been perfect for the role. There's such a huge gap between what they know and what we need that, to be honest, for me, it was really shocking. I was like, wait a second, you've got first class honors, and software engineering, computer science, but it's just not something that would bring me value straight away. I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time and money training this person up. And so I think what you've mentioned about, what they need to know isn't really just stuff that you can Google and do Code Academy for 2 months and then figure out. You need the skills. You need that ability to be agile, to be flexible, to be creative, to be proactive. You have integrity. Integrity is a big one. That means turning up when you say you're going to come to an interview. Trust me, I've had many empty afternoons, right? Waiting for those interviewees. When we're going to be more remote, we're going to be further apart from each other physically, right? You better do what you say you're going to do, because or else I'm going to find someone else to do it. So these are the skills that needs to be embedded in our curriculum. Being able to teach yourself and learn new things as you get older every day is going to be necessary, because by the time you want that opportunity, you need to have everything that you need to grab it. So I think that what Habibah's mentioned, what Daniel's mentioned, has been exactly what you need to know, and what employers now have already been sort of calculating their HR budgets towards, right? But no, maybe Junaidi's got more on that.
I'm gonna open up the floor in about 30 seconds for questions. Either, it doesn't matter if you're here physically with us or virtually. So if there are any questions, please prepare them, and we'll get into them in about 30 seconds. But for now, I totally agree with you. In fact, I took a degree in new media. By the time I finished it, it wasn't new anymore. When I went for interviews, they tell me your cert is outdated. So I don't know what to make out of that. Junaidi, actually, I've got a question for you. Hearing what they say, how do we reconcile everything that they've said, especially from the perspective of a telco? Because you guys are the ones building in the infrastructure, the foundations for us to communicate in the future.
Okay. Why did you ask me the hardest question of all? Oh, I'm just joking. But anyway, don't look at me like that.
Because
Reuben.
nobody asked me questions.
So, in my perspective, it's about being that, what do you call that lizard? The one that changes color, chameleon. Right, so, oh my God.
I thought you bring the crocodile back.
It's such a normal way, a chameleon, right? So, taking into perspective, such as myself, I can easily jump out of conversations between P&L or profit and earnings ratios to jumping about wealth management, to talk about telcos, APIs, behaviors, business rules, etc. So I can even talk about connectivity, how are we on the island, submarine cables, and so on and so forth, and it totally had zero relations with each other. So it's all about agility. That's taking a cue from Daniel. Taking a cue from Aimi, it's about being an entrepreneur. Having that entrepreneurship embedded in oneself without owning the company itself brings a lot of values. You know, challenging the status quo, never settle for anything lesser. Right? Keep on asking people, keep on talking, keep on questioning. It's not about accepting why and why and why. When your peers or your friends tell you this is how you should do it, you should never accept it the way it is. Right? So from day one, since I was a kid, running around being an, you know, beep to my parents, right? So
You guys can ask him what beep is afterwards.
yeah. So basically, what has been happening is I've always asked questions. I've never settled. Going abroad, spending alone for 5 years, away from my kid, alone, right? It's also a sign that I think of never settling, right? And last one is basically, from what I can see amongst the young generation, is that constant questioning is now there. So it has never been there. We are always told what to do. So I felt alone. And now I feel as if that I've got a group of friends because we keep on questioning.
So asking questions is a good thing. I'm going to tell my mom that later. We are at 0 minute left, but I did promise that we'll open up the floor to some questions. So I'm going to take the liberty of taking 3 more minutes. Is that okay? Of course, okay lah. Cook Maggie mee also not enough time. Okay. Let's go with let's start with something with a question from the middle row. The middle row here. Yes, sir. Hurry up, dude. You're making it awkward for me, man.
As you said, having the like being first class, top class, or even the honors, you said we need skills. We need to develop them, be productive, as well as learn every day. So my question here is, how or where do we try learning or earning these skills other than Google?
Oh, so the question is, where do I learn these skills other than Google.com, right? Panelists, may I take this? May I take this?
Sure.
There's Coursera. There's. Okay, you can take this back now.
Udemy, Code Academy,
There's so many.
YouTube, books.
I personally think that there's never been an easier time to learn anything you want to learn in the world from home right now.
Hear that down there.
Clap lah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Let's go with a question from this row here. The gentleman at the back, because he looks the most desperate.
I love the jacket.
Oh, okay. Sorry, and thank you for running.
Hello. Question is for everyone. How did you all keep your company in control during the peak of the pandemic?
How did we keep our companies under control during the peak of the pandemic? Ooh, I don't have a company. You guys have a company, so you tell them.
Maybe I can answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't get your name anyway.
My name is Herman.
Thank you, Herman, for that question. I think for us, it's just the way we kept going was because we know we have to keep going. Yeah? How we managed ourselves during the peak was that we separated our operations into 3 different locations just to make sure that everyone kept safe, because one of the learnings we found that was, first thing is employees. Yes, we have customers, but the most important thing for us was how do we make sure that our employees are being taken care of. So in order for us to make sure that there's continuity, of our business. So what we did was we had 3 different locations so that everyone's feeling safe, and none of these people from these different locations can go to the other, in order to make sure that there's no risk of infection. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Habibah. I also suspect that if this pandemic had happened maybe about 15 years ago, it wouldn't be so easily controlled, and work couldn't carry on as easily because, well, the technology is not there, right? So thank you.
But that's right as well. The reason why we were able to deal with that was because we've already started our digital transformation journey a few years back. So that's what helped. If we haven't, then that would have been a problem.
Yeah. Thank you, Habibah. Thank you.
Thank you.